Good afternoon from sacred space at Titania's realm. The time is 12:21 p.m. on Thursday, the 5th of February 2026. It's a scathing hot day. It's 30 degrees, but it was such a beautiful morning when I woke up this morning that I was elevated and happy. I had a very bad night with my bladder, but a better night with my breathing. So swings and roundabouts as usual with my body, mind and spirit, but I woke up feeling really happy. For the first time in a long time, there was a lightness of being. So I perused my older YouTube videos as I often seem to be doing lately, going over things and seeing if I still agree with things that I've said in the past, if it still holds true. And so far I still feel the same way about things. I haven't had cause to change my opinions about certain things, which was interesting actually. And anyway, I came upon my video where I'm doing the mosh, the Tanya shenanigans, and I just felt like watching myself doing the mosh and dancing and being silly and yet defiant and joyous. So I watched the whole video again, and honestly, I really enjoyed it. I was like, people probably look at it and think, what is that crazy old chickie babe doing? But I know why I made that video and why it's so potent. And I went through it all, and I even laughed at certain points at myself. And it was actually very kind of comforting and kind of healing. And actually it was uplifting, all my favourite rock songs that I like to dance to. So I've decided I must make another Tanya party video soonish. I don't know when. I'll have to be in the mood, people of Earth, but it was just lovely. I sat there and I thought, that video's got 675 views. I don't know why people were looking at it, because you wouldn't think it would attract that many views. There's better videos, but I don't know, there's just something about me being sassy and defiant and wild and carefree. Even I kind of looked at it and thought, yeah, baby, you go, girl. Never ever let the bastards grind you down. So I'm thinking it's time to make another one soon, but I'll have to change up the songs and have different music, because it's boring if it's the same songs over and over again. And I don't know, some of my videos, very few of my audience or subscribers even look at them, but I look at them from time to time and go over them, and I think, overall, I can be a neurotic and at times paranoid person, depending on what evil shit's been hurled at me by someone I thought loved me, which is a constant refrain on repeat over the decades. But overall, when I look at my own videos and I look at sort of knowing the background of it, the emotions behind it and the context and the subtext, I'm pretty freaking awesome, I've been through so much, and I just keep sailing through it like a Spanish galleon in foreign waters. Sometimes all guns are blazing too, but anyway, that was my morning, listening to that and laughing at myself, not in a negative way, but just taking delight in my own mischief a bit. It's a really unusual experience, actually. People didn't have the luxury of doing that in the old days before phone cameras, when you could film your own self processing emotions and dancing or doing your creativity, whatever form it came in, which was different world, I guess. Anyway, and then Rati arrived to clean, and I had put the birdie boys out, so we were all outside here. And then I went to make the video while she was cleaning, as I sometimes do. But I had to charge my phone, so I thought, well, I'll charge the phone and I'll come out and make this video later on. So here we are underneath my frangipani tree with my birds on a hot Thursday afternoon. It's just past noontime, and I went to water the garden, but then I thought I won't be able to get up and move the hose every 10 minutes while I'm reading to you, so I put a bit of water on the plant. The dahlias that didn't flower but look like they're dying now from the heat. Gave them a spritz. I've given the birdie boys a spritz. I'm kind of tired now after my high that I was on when I woke up this morning. I was up a lot last night with my bladder, about 6 times, and then I got slammed with insomnia too because all the getting up and interruptions. So it was a bit of a bad night last night. So it was unusual to wake up feeling happy, so very happy. And I said to Rati when she arrived, I said, I feel like something really lovely is going to happen in our world, in the collective, like not just for me, but for everybody. I said, I don't know what it is, but there's kind of an uplifting, releasing of tension and pressure and evil, like something's just, even if it's only for this morning, just lifting us up and gifting us joy. So I'll go with that because we need more comfort and ease and peace and joy and community and indeed continuity in our lives. To be surrounded by people who love us and vibe with us and treat us with utmost respect. Just going to spritz the birdie boys. They don't like it, but it's 30 degrees and it's a bit hot out here. There we go. Wet birds, wet birds, wet birds. Right, that's another thing done. So I thought I'd continue reading My Family and Other Animals. I told Rati the story about my communion with the pigeon at the Hotel Morrison on Sunday. She laughed too. She said, that's hilarious. So it was a very strange afternoon, but you know, the birdies and the dog seem to connect. The dogs too seem to connect with me and love me no matter what, no matter who. And you know what? I think that's quite delightful, quite frankly. I had my debrief with my psychiatrist yesterday, and he's truly a lovely man. He completely gets me and completely understands everything that I've gone through in recent weeks. And he said, I'm actually really impressed that you took yourself out to meet a man, Tanya. I said, yeah, I don't usually do that. He said, will you be doing it again? I said, probably not. I can't cope with that level of distress and then being, kind of treated like I was some kind of vermin was obnoxious beyond belief. I said, I can't be bothered. I'm not really wanting a partner so badly that I have to jump through hoops for one. It's like, not my scene. So he agreed. He said, you might be a bit isolated, you know, how you live, Tanya, but he said you've got that beautiful home and garden and live peaceful. He said, why would you want to do things that cause you distress and stress? Exactly. But anyway, let us begin. Chapter 15, the Cyclamen Woods. Half a mile or so from the villa rose a fairly large conical hill, covered with grass and heather, and crowned with 3 tiny olive groves, separated from each other by wide beds of myrtle. I call these 3 little groves the Cyclamen Woods, for in the right season the ground beneath the olive trees was flushed magenta and wine red with the flowers of cyclamen that seemed to grow more thickly and more luxuriantly here than anywhere else in the countryside. I do actually love cyclamen. I tried to grow them under that tree at one stage, and I don't know what happened. They died off, but maybe they're only annuals, I'm not sure. But if these are growing wild in the woods, they must be perennials. Anyway, it's the dreadful heat here that kills off a lot of my plants, so I've stopped buying plants. I used to buy plants a lot for this garden, but I lost so many that it was like, it's actually just a waste of money. But I only keep things going here that I know are going to survive and thrive and acclimatised to the ecosystem. And some plants have struggled to stay alive but are still kicking on. But I probably spent thousands on this garden. I know for a fact I spent thousands on my marital home. I put in most beautiful rose bushes and a macadamia nut tree which I bought, which are expensive to buy even back in the day, 37 years ago. 38 years ago nearly now. And what else did I buy? I bought the most beautiful magnolia, 2 different varieties of magnolia trees. And all the time my husband, what do you want that for? Spending so much money on the garden. Well, I was paying out of my housekeeping money for it, my children's private education, as well as finding money to pay for plants. And I never drank or did drugs, so I didn't spend a lot of money on recreational activities. It's just sitting there. Even then, with my little kids when they were very little, we would just sit in the garden, swim in the pool, and play with the pets I had at the time. And we were often in the garden, really like little wild sprites living our best lives. That aspect was lovely. I did have a lovely garden, but I spent thousands on that garden, and then I had to walk away and leave it all behind. And then I went past the old house a few years later, and they chopped down the beautiful magnolia trees. They got rid of the beautiful macadamia. They didn't even bloody appreciate all the beauty that I planted there and spent a fortune on and nurtured. Like, it really was disgusting. I was upset about that. All my beautiful trees getting butchered by unnatural humanoids that are disconnected from nature. It's foul, isn't it? It's really foul. I know for a fact if I ever move out of here that they'll just bulldoze and everything, kill all the beautiful trees and build some ugly steel frame mausoleum like the houses across the road. It's hideous. Hideous, people. The old man that used to live there he was Romanian, he was nuts. He used to threaten to rape me on a regular basis. He threatened to rape me and I'd tell him I'd put him in hospital if he did. And that was his idea of banter. He was off his chops. However, he had planted the most beautiful fruit trees. He had mandarin tree, mango tree, orange trees, lemon tree, lime tree, mostly citrus. He had banana trees, he had passion fruits. He used to often want to give me, because he was besotted with me on some level, give me fruit from his garden. Sometimes I would accept it and I'll trade things with him, just to be neighbourly and be a bit friendly. But, he would have, if he had lived to see what they did to that land, how they just mowed everything down, it would have killed him all over again. I actually cried and cried for a few days when they mowed all that beautiful land down and chopped down all the exquisite orchard that he'd planted all around the perimeter of the house. And then he used to come over to visit me here, because lived across the road. And he'd be like, he used to call me kid. I don't know why. He wasn't that much older than me, but anyway, probably about 10, 15 years older. But anyway, he would come over and he'd be like, kid. And I'd be like, yeah, what, John? Because I used to talk to him because he was annoying. And, I wasn't happy about the rape threats. But anyway, he'd be like, kid. And he says, how come your trees are full of bees? I said, because I don't put poisons down. I said, only idiots put poisons down and kill all the bees. You kill all the bees, how do you expect to have any fruit? And he went pale and he looked at me like this. I had no fruit last year on my mandarin and orange trees. I went, because you killed all the bees, didn't you, you idiot? I put poison down. I went, yeah. What do you think happens when you put poisons down? I was trying to kill something else. I said, yeah, but the bees don't know. They get poison too. They bring it back to their hives. It kills everything. I said, if you don't put poisons down, the bees will come and they'll fertilise your trees and you'll have fruit. Simple. It's science. He just looked at me like, he was really shocked. He said, you're smarter than you look, Tanya. I went, oh, thanks, John. I'll take that as a compliment. Not. But anyway, he says, I'm sitting here and I'm looking and I see all the bees and all the flowers like paradise. And I was like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be, living in harmony on your land with your garden. Everything's supposed to, you're even supposed to plant certain things so you don't get any pests at all. Companion planting and permaculture, it's called. He says, I've heard of this. But to be fair, when his trees were growing fruit, the fruit was spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. What you doing, little boy? You're preening the pretty grey feathers. Grey's not my favourite colour, I don't know how I got a grey birdie. He says, I'm the cutest one. Out of the two of us, I've got the biggest personality. He's certainly got a big personality. Right. I segued at cyclamens, growing thickly and more luxuriantly here than anywhere else in the countryside. The flashy circular bulbs with their flaky peeling skin. A bit synchronous given the state of my lip, isn't it? Dear goddess. Grew in beds like oysters, each with its cluster of deep green, white-veined leaves, a fountain of beautiful flowers that looked as though they had been made from magenta-stained snowflakes. The Cyclamen woods were an excellent place to spend an afternoon. Lying beneath the shade of the olive trunks, you could look out over the valley, a mosaic of fields, vineyards and orchards, to where the sea shone between the olive trunks, 1,000 fiery sparkles running over it as it rubbed itself gently and languorously along the shore. I don't have anybody coming tomorrow. I don't have any appointments to, don't have any plans. I might go swimming tomorrow. I might go to Coochie. Might be a nice thing to do. Haven't been anywhere. Even just for half a day. I don't like leaving the birds. That's the thing. When I have pets, I don't like leaving them. But I haven't been to Coochie since late November when I went with Jared. We had a lovely day that day too. So yes, I have to take myself to places now and be independent and self-sufficient, and you never know, might make some friends when I'm at the beach too. Just people might actually at least be kind. I can't wrap my head around what's become of our world, you know. It's really horrific. It's like living in a horror movie. But today was a happy day. Really was. The hilltop seemed to have its own breeze, albeit a baby one, for no matter how hot it was below in the valley, up in the three olive groves, the tiny wind played constantly. The lorikeets are here. The leaves whispered, and the drooping cyclamen flowers bowed to each other in endless greeting. It was an ideal spot in which to rest after a hectic lizard hunt, when your head was pounding with the heat, your clothes limp and discoloured with perspiration, and the three dogs hung out their pink tongues and panted like ancient miniature railway engines. It was while the dogs and I were resting after just such a hunt that I acquired 2 new pets, and indirectly started off a chain of coincidences that affected both Larry and Mr. Kralewski. Let's have a look at myself. You can tell I had a rough night last night. Oh well, I really am contented today. I'm so grateful for my psychiatrist. He's a beautiful man. I said, what am I going to do with the state of our world, Brian? He said, every day in every way, Tanya, you're going to continue doing what you've always done. What's that, Brian? Be defiant and give the middle finger out to the world. He really gets my spirit, you know. He really understands and values me. I said, you know what, Brian? I'm going to go down with that middle finger rising as I descend into Valhalla. And we both laugh, but it's actually not that funny. It's very few people left like us with soul and corazon and guts and a little bit of glory at times. Let's read that again. The dogs, tongues rippling, had flung themselves down among the cyclamens and lay on their stomachs, hind legs spread out, in order to get as much of the cool earth against their bodies as possible. Yes, little Kermie, Mummy might have a spritz too. And spritzing you, what about spritzing me? That's nice. Their eyes were half closed and their jowls dark with saliva. I was leaning against an olive trunk that had spent the past 100 years growing itself into the right shape for a perfect backrest, and gazing out over the fields and trying to identify my peasant friends among the tiny coloured blobs that moved there. Far below, over a blonde square of ripening maize, a small black and white shape appeared, like a piebald Maltese cross. Just one moment. I don't know why, but my bloody brows digging into me today. That can go, people of Earth. Most uncomfortable. Far out, man. 30-degree heat. Being contorted and distorted by a brazier. It's mad, isn't it? Mad. Bit of lady, you know. Right. Sorry. Far below, over a blonde square of ripening maize, a small black and white shape appeared, like a piebald Maltese cross, skimming rapidly across the flat areas of cultivation, heading determinedly for the hilltop on which I sat. As it flew towards me, the magpie uttered 3 brief, harsh chucks that sounded rather muffled, as though its beak were full of food. It dived as neatly as an arrow into the depths of an olive tree some distance away. There was a pause, and then there arose a chorus of shrill, wheezing shrieks from among the leaves, which swept to a crescendo, and died slowly away. You wouldn't think I was a native English speaker sometimes, would you? Well, you know, my father was a native English speaker because he was born in New Zealand, but, you know, Case was Dutch and Mum was German. I picked up some very weird pronunciations from them at times. Some very weird mannerisms too. I'm teasing little Bo. He's wondering what I'm doing, so he's copying me. It's cute. What you doing, little snooks? Do you want another spritz? Oh, have to move it back to the squirtages. Yeah, gotcha good, gotcha good. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Yeah, babies. Very nice. Oh, don't want to get you in the eye. That's not cool. Oh, he's opening his wings right up. Good boy, he gets it now. He gets it. That's it, little Bo. You open those wings and I'll make you nice and wet with that water. You can feel like a real birdie again. What about you, Kenny? Gonna open your wings up? No? Kenny's not very intelligent, I've decided. Little Bo is like posturing for optimum coolness. Yes, my little snooky boy. They're sweet little babies. They're sweet little baby birds. He's spread both his wings out and his tail feathers and he's like really languishing in it. Good boy. Good boy, little Bo. Oh, you're going to feel so good after that. It's so lovely. You're such a lovely boy. I'm so in love with you. Not in a sexual way, you understand. But, you know, nothing wrong with loving your birdie boys. Avril down the road has a female Indian ringneck, but she doesn't want to let Kermie breed with her. It's annoying knowing that there's a female very close by and available, but her human mother won't let her breed. You could have had babies, Kermie. What would you do with a baby mama to you, mad cow? I don't know. Just got to be a grandmother to something. Some living creature that loves me like you do. Yes, he's stretching his wings out now. He finally got with the program. What I'm trying to do, keep you cool on a hot day. You want to see what they're doing? They're so gorgeous. Look at you. And now he's going to bath in his drinking water because he thinks that's what he needs to do now. What's this one doing? You happy birdie boys? Happy birdie boys. Happy birdie boys. Handsome boys. Look, my gorgeous ones. Yes. They must have been hot because he's really loving it. Loving it, aren't you? Loving it. Right, the spritz bottle's empty now. I'll have to go fill it up for later. He sticks sticks his head in the bowl and he goes, and then he spits again. He's got a perfectly good bath in the bottom of the cage, but he won't use it. Odd. Bit odd. Bit odd, Kermie. Both spreading their wings out and getting optimum coolness. Lovely. Again I heard the magpie chuck, softly and warningly, and it leapt out of the leaves and glided down, off down the hillside once more. I waited until the bird was a mere speck, like a dust mote, floating over the frilly triangle of vineyard on the horizon, and then got to my feet and cautiously circled the tree from which the curious sounds had come. High up among the branches, half hidden by the green and silver leaves, I could make out a large oval bundle of twigs, like a huge furry football wedged among the branches. Excitedly, I started to scramble up the tree, while the dogs gathered at the bottom of the trunk and watched me with interest. When I was near to the nest, I looked down and my stomach writhed, for the dogs' faces, peering up at me eagerly, were the size of pimpernel flowers. Carefully, my palms sweating, I edged my way out along the branches until I crouched side by side with the nest among the breeze-ruffled leaves. It was a massive structure, a great basket of carefully interwoven sticks, a deep cup of mud and rootlets in its heart. Just about knocked over the water bottle with my big hobbits' feet, people of Earth. They're very clumsy today, probably because it's hot. Hello, crow family. Are you coming for a swim? Yes, he's spreading his wings out to keep himself cool too. You can't do that. Spread your wings out in the hot sun. Go in the shade like your baby's doing, you mad bird. Honestly. The entrance hole through the wall was small, and the twigs that surrounded it bristled with sharp thorns, as did the sides of the nest and the neatly domed wickerwork roof. It was the sort of nest designed to discourage the most ardent ornithologist, trying to avoid looking down. I lay on my stomach along the branch and pushed my hand carefully inside the thorny bundle, groping in the mud cup. Under my fingers, I could feel soft, quivering skin and fluff, while a shrill chorus of wheezes rose from inside the nest. baby crow's running across the lawn. Running, not flying, running with his feet, hoppity-hoppeting. And he's going to go and have a drink out of the little clam pool and maybe a swim. And his father or his mother, not sure which, is also drinking. Making lots of vocalizations. Yes, my darling. You enjoyed that drink, did you? That's good. They stole my pastrami toast. I had pastrami on toast and tomato and cucumber, and I left it outside and got distracted and went in to say something to Rati. The next thing I know, I looked back, there was a piece of the bread was in one crow's beak and the pastrami was in the other. They didn't even wait a second to take my food, the little monsters. There's only 2 of them today. I don't know where the other parent is. It's odd. Carefully I curved my fingers round one fat, warm baby and drew it out. Enthusiastic though I was, even I had to admit it was no beauty. Its squat beak, with a green fold at each corner, the bald head, so not with green, where did I get that from? With a yellow fold at each corner, the bald head and the half-open bleary eyes gave it a drunken and rather imbecile look. The skin hung in folds and wrinkles all over its body, apparently pinned loosely and haphazardly to its flesh by black feather stubs. Are you going to take the lorikeet, Mick? You're a very greedy bird. You've got your own seeds down there and pastrami you threw down, didn't even eat. Steal my meat and then drop it and leave it to rot. They really are spoiled. They really are. They're naughty. What are we going to do about it? Nothing. Crows will do what crows will do, and humans will do what humans will do. Between the lanky legs drooped a huge flaccid stomach, the skin of it so fine that you could dimly see the internal organs beneath. The baby squatted in my palm, its belly spreading out like a water-filled balloon, and wheezed hopefully. Groping about, I'm going to have to move in the shade with the sun beating down on the back of my neck. Got to be careful because, you know, skin cancers. Bloody skin cancers, people of Earth. Constant battle trying to stay in the shade. Preserve myself. What am I preserving myself for? It's odd, isn't it? It's odd. For my tutto bellissimo life. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm having a absolutely beautiful life anyway, aren't I? Partner, no partner, money, no money. at least I have the garden. I'm very grateful for this garden. Very grateful. Right, let's carry on, people of Earth. Groping about inside the nest, I found that there were 3 other youngsters, each as revolting as the one I had in my hand. After some thought, and having examined each of them with care, I decided to take 2 and leave the other pair for the mother. This struck me as being quite fair. Would you rob my grave as well, Mrs. Crow? She's climbed up on the chair, wondering why I've moved over here. There's no food over there. No, I'm on to you. This struck me as being quite fair, but I did not see how the mother could possibly object. I chose the largest because he would grow up quickly, and the smallest because he looked so pathetic. Put them carefully inside my shirt and climbed cautiously back to the waiting dogs. On being shown the new additions to the menagerie, Whittle and Puke immediately decided that they must be edible and tried to find out if their conclusion was correct. After I had reprimanded them, I showed the birds to Roger. He sniffed at them in his usual benign way and then retreated hastily when the babies shot their heads up on long, scrawny necks, red mouths gaping wide, and wheezed lustily. I didn't know that baby magpies made wheezing noises. Well, there you go. What do baby crows' noises sound like? Very annoying. And baby lorikeets, they can be annoying too when it's breeding season by the gods. Very shrill they are. Look at this. He's letting me know. Why did you move, Mama T? Well, because I needed the shade, that's why. Since when do I answer to you, Mr. Crow? Are you in charge of sacred space now? Look at them. Where were you before anyway, when you left your wife and kid alone for a while here? She's so beautiful, her feathers are almost blue in the sunshine. Blue-black. I don't know if you can see it if I'm pointing directly at her with my camera. It's a bit hard. Absolutely exquisite she is. What's the matter? Are you confused that I moved my table and chair? Baby's going to have a swim. You going to have a swim too? Go have a swim. Go on. No, doesn't want to. Mama too should go and have a lovely swim somewhere nice. As I carried my new pets back homewards, I tried to decide what to call them. I was still debating this problem when I reached the villa and found the family, who had just been on a shopping expedition into town, disgorging from the car. Holding out the babies in my cupped hands, I inquired if anyone could think of a suitable pair of names for them. The family took one look and all reacted in their individual ways. Aren't they sweet? Said Margot. What are you going to feed them on? Asked Mother. What revolting things, said Leslie. Not more animals? Asked Larry with distaste. Gollies, Mr. Jerry's, said Spiro, looking disgusted. What's them? I replied rather coldly that they were baby magpies, that I hadn't asked anyone's opinion on them, but merely wanted some help in christening them. What should I call them? But the family were not in a helpful mood. Fancy taking them away from their mother, poor little things, said Margot. I concur. I hope they're old enough to eat, dear, said Mother. Honest to gods, the things Master Jerry's finds, said Spiro. You'll have to watch out they don't steal, said Leslie. Steal? Said Larry in a laugh. I thought that was jackdaws. Magpies too, said Leslie. Awful thieves, magpies. Yes, I'm still waiting for my sterling silver nut ring to be given back to me. Munchkins. I guess I can forget about it ever coming back though. I keep saying that, don't I? Every now and then in the video, like, the birds can bring me back that ring. I've got plenty of rings. I thought about buying another one and remaking it, but it was pretty. But I don't really need another ring. I'm in the process of making another one of a different variety, but it's not about need, it's about being intrepid and replacing what's been stolen from you by the birds or other living entities. And never suiting and never quitting and never yielding. And being stubborn and stoic and determined and prosperous and thriving. I've got blood in my eye just thinking about the thriving people of Earth. I know. It's a bit ridiculous. However, if you zoom out from outer space and look at me sitting here in my garden, I really am thriving. Larry took 100 drachma note from his pocket and waved it over the babies, and they immediately shot their heads skywards, necks wavering, mouths gaping, wheezing and bubbling frantically. Larry jumped back hastily. You're right, by God, he exclaimed excitedly. Did you see that? They tried to attack me to get the money. Don't be ridiculous, dear. They're only hungry, said Mother. Nonsense, Mother. You saw them leap at me, didn't you? It's the money that did it. Even at that age they have criminal instincts. He can't possibly keep them. It will be like living with Arsène Lupin. Go and put them back where you found them, Jerry. Or the modern day, not so modern anymore, equivalent would be Ronald Biggs, the great train robber that happened to be on my ship when we were returning from Germany, the Alanice. They held us up at Fremantle, wouldn't let us go off on tours or go anywhere, searching for the great train robber. Later on in a documentary he said, Interpol walked right past me, didn't even recognise my really pathetic disguise. He said, which all it was a pair of sunglasses and I'd grown a bit of a moustache and a beard. He thought it was hilarious, but he ruined our day in Fremantle, the bastard. I have a feeling that I walked right past them too, but I had no idea who they were looking for. Didn't even know what a great train robber was. Had to be explained to me what was holding us up. Well, anyway. Ronald Biggs. Thought big. Stole big. I think he got away with it too, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure, they might have got him in the end. Can't remember how it ended up with him, but he got away with it in 1973 on December on the return journey. Right. Was it December? I can't remember what month it was. It was towards the end of the year anyway. Oh, the backs of my heels are so sore. The bones are just stinging all the time. I don't know what that's about. It's some weird kind of pain in the heels. Right, we won't worry about stupid things like great train robbers and painful heels. We'll just carry on reading the story, won't we, people of Earth? Innocently and done truthfully, I explained that I couldn't do that, as the mother would desert them and they would then starve to death, putting them back where he found them. I saw this weird shape in the African tulip tree and I thought it was what looked like a kind of a bird watching me. But it's a seed pod. But it's like a pale coloured seed pod, so it sort of confused me for a bit there. They're usually black coloured. Right. This, as I had anticipated, immediately got Mother and Margot on my side. We can't let the poor little things starve, protested Margot. I don't see that it would do any harm to keep them, said Mother. You'll regret it, said Larry. It's asking for trouble. Every room in the house will be rifled. We'll have to bury all our valuables and post an armed guard over them. It's lunacy. It's been a bit dramatic, isn't it? They do steal though, magpies and jackdaws. They do. They like shiny things, like sterling silver rings, for example. Don't be silly, dear, said Mother soothingly. We can keep them in a cage and only let them out for exercise. Exercise? Exclaimed Larry. I suppose you'll call it exercise when they're flapping round the house with 100 drachma notes in their filthy beaks. I really would have had no interest in a paper note, trust me on that one. It was probably just the movement. I promised faithfully that the magpies should not in any circumstance be allowed to steal. Larry gave me a withering look. I pointed out that the birds had still to be named, but nobody could think of anything suitable. We stood and stared at the quivering babies, but nothing suggested itself. "What's yous going to do with them bastards?" asked Spiro. Somewhat acidly, I said that I intended to keep them as pets, and that, furthermore, they were not bastards, but magpies. "What's you calls them?" asked Spiro, scowling. "Magpies, Spiro, magpies," said Mother, enunciating slowly and clearly. Spiro turned this new addition to his English vocabulary over in his mind, repeating it to himself, getting it firmly embedded. "Muggin pies," he said at last. "Muggin pies, eh?" "Magpies, Spiro," corrected Margot. "That's what I says," said Spiro indignantly. "Muggin pies." So from that moment we gave up trying to find a name for them, and they became simply known as the Magpies. Excuse me. Magpies. Muggin pies. Magpies. Dear Goddess. Because I'm Jewish, I wanted to make it sound like Magen David. Can't help myself sometimes. It slips out from time to time, my Jewishness. It's not usually expected or takes people by surprise. "You don't look Jewish." I used to get that a lot. Fuck you. What do Jews look like anyway? We come from all over the world, all different cultures and countries. So that's like irritating when you get that. But anyway. By the time the magpies had gorged themselves to a size where they were fully fledged, Larry had become so used to seeing them around that he had forgotten their allegedly criminal habits. Fat, glossy and garrulous, squatting on top of their basket and flapping their wings vigorously, the magpies looked the very picture of innocence. All went well until they learned to fly. The earliest stages consisted in leaping off the table on the veranda, flapping their wings frantically, and gliding down to crash onto the stone flags some 15 feet away. Their courage grew with the strength of their wings, and before very long they accomplished their first real flight, a merry-go-round affair around the villa. They looked so lovely, their long tails glittering in the sun, their wings hissing as they swooped down to fly under the vine, that I called the family out to have a look at them. Aware of their audience, the magpies flew faster and faster, chasing each other, diving within inches of the wall before banking to one side and doing the acrobatics on the branches of the magnolia tree. This is happening up here. Honestly, people are there. Practically have to glue my hair down these days. It's odd, isn't it? Right, where were we? Lost my place. Right. Eventually one of them made overconfident by our applause, misjudged his distance, crashed into the grapevine and fell onto the veranda, no longer a bold, swerving ace of the air, but a woebegone bundle of feathers that opened its mouth and wheezed plaintively at me when I picked it up and soothed it. But once having mastered their wings, the magpies quickly mapped out the villa, and then they were all set for their banditry. The kitchen, they knew, was an excellent place to visit, providing they stayed on the doorstep and did not venture inside. The drawing room and dining room they never entered if someone was there. Of the bedrooms, they knew that the only one in which they were assured of a warm welcome was mine. They would certainly fly into Mother's or Margot's, but they were constantly being told not to do things, and they found this boring. Leslie would allow them on his windowsill, but no farther, but they gave up visiting him after the day he let off a gun by accident. It unnerved them, and I think they had a vague idea that Leslie had made an attempt on their lives. But the bedroom that really intrigued and fascinated them was, of course, Larry's, and I think it was because they never managed to get a good look inside. Before they had even touched down on the windowsill, they would be greeted with such roars of rage, followed by a rapidly discharged shower of missiles, that they would be forced to flap rapidly away to the safety of the magnolia tree. I love magnolia trees. If I give up on ever hope of ever having a swimming pool, I could plant one in that space that I've left for the for the swimming pool. Tempting, but they're expensive to buy now, magnolia trees. They weren't that cheap when I bought them nearly 40 years ago. 35 years ago. Something like that. They could not understand Larry's attitude at all. They decided that, since he made such a fuss, it must be that he had something to hide, and that it was their duty to find out what it was. They chose their time carefully, waiting patiently until one afternoon Larry went off for a swim and left his window open. I did not discover what the magpies had been up to until Larry came back. I had missed the birds, but thought they had flown down the hill to steal some grapes. They were obviously well aware that they were doing wrong, for though normally loquacious, they carried out their raid in silence and, according to Larry, took it in turns to do sentry duty on the windowsill. As he came up the hill, he saw, to his horror, one of them sitting on the sill, and shouted wrathfully at it. The bird gave a chuck of alarm, and the other one flew out of the room and joined it. They flapped off into the magnolia tree, chuckling hoarsely, like schoolboys caught raiding an orchard. Larry burst into the house and swept up to his room, grabbing me en route. When he opened the door, Larry uttered a moan like a soul in torment. The magpies had been through the room as thoroughly as any Secret Service agent searching for missing plans. Piles of manuscript and typing paper lay scattered about the floor like drifts of autumn leaves, most of them with an attractive pattern of holes punched in them. The magpies never could resist paper. The typewriter stood stolidly on the table, looking like a disemboweled horse in a bull ring, its ribbon coiling out of its interior, its keys bespattered with droppings. The carpet, bed and table were aglitter with a layer of paper clips like frost. The magpies, obviously suspecting Larry of being a dope smuggler, had fought valiantly with the tin of bicarbonate of soda and had scattered its contents along a line of books so that they looked like a snow-covered mountain range. The table, the floor, the manuscript, the bed and especially the pillow were decorated with an artistic and unusual chain of footprints in green and red ink. It seemed almost as though each bird had overturned his favourite colour and walked in it. The bottle of blue ink, which would not have been so noticeable, was untouched. "This is the last straw," said Larry in a shaking voice. "Positively the last straw. Either you do something about those birds, or I will personally wring their necks." I protested that he could hardly blame the magpies. They were interested in things, I explained. They couldn't help it. They were just made like that. All members of the Crow tribe, I went on, warming to my defence work, were naturally curious. They didn't know they were doing wrong. My crows knew they were doing wrong when they stole my pastrami and my toast this morning. They just looked at me and kind of laughed. Mean little birds. Anyway, they've gone off somewhere, back to the forest or to visit someone else in the neighbourhood. Yes, they are indeed gone. They're not in the... Oh no, I'm wrong. They're sitting up in the second African tulip tree, quietly observing me. Well, anyway, they're all right. They're all right. They're a bit naughty at times, but they're all right. It was my fault for leaving my breakfast outside and trusting them to behave. "I did not ask for a lecture on the Crow tribe," said Larry ominously, "and I am not interested in the moral sense of magpies, either inherited or acquired. I'm just telling you that you will have to either get rid of them or lock them up, otherwise I will tear them wing from wing." The rest of the family, finding that they could not siesta with the argument going on, it was a March fry about to impale me with its horrible proboscis or whatever it is they bite you with. mean creatures. Where were we? Assembled to find out the trouble. Gotta watch my feet now because it'll come back, that one. Hate March flies or horse flies. Good heavens, dear, what have you been doing? Asked Mother, peering round the wrecked room. Mother, I am in no mood to answer imbecile questions. Must be the magpie, said Leslie, with the relish of a prophet proved right. Anything missing? No, nothing missing, said Larry bitterly. They spared me that. They've made an awful mess of your papers, observed Margot. Larry stared at her for a moment, breathing deeply. What a masterly understatement, he said at last. You are always ready with the apt platitude to sum up a catastrophe. How I envy you, your ability to be inarticulate in the face of fate. I'm a bit like that. I tend to just come out with the obvious. It's not one of my most endearing qualities, but I seem to have that attitude too. It's not meant nastily, it's just participatory in the drama of whatever is unfolding and making wry observations. Sometimes it can be humorous too, stating the obvious. Sometimes it's so obvious that no one else has realised it either, so it can be quite handy at times. But anyway, there's no need to be rude, said Margot. Larry didn't mean it, dear, explained Mother untruthfully. He's naturally upset. Upset? Upset? Those scab-ridden vultures came flapping in here like a pair of critics and tear and bespatter my manuscript before it's even finished. And you say I'm upset? It's very annoying, dear, said Mother, in an attempt to be vehement about the incident. But I'm sure they didn't mean it. After all, they don't understand. They're only birds. Now, don't you start, said Larry fiercely. Oh, now we've got all the lorikeets twittering away. Hello, Charlie's friends. There's lorikeet mix on top of the potting cupboard if you want some. Yes, it's out there. The crows have had some of it. He's looking at me, listening to my voice. They know me, though, that bird. He really knows me, the sweet bird. He wanted to be the father of my grandchildren, but Charlie simply wouldn't allow any frottering of the birdie kind. What you doing? What you doing? Now don't you start, said Larry fiercely. I've already been treated to a discourse on the sense of right and wrong in the Crow tribe. It's disgusting the way this family carries on over animals. All this anthropomorphic slush that's drilled out as an excuse. Why don't you all become magpie worshippers and erect a prison to pray in? The way you all carry on, one would think that I was to blame and that it's my fault that my room looks as though it's been plundered by Attila the Hun. Well, I'm telling you, if something isn't done about those birds right away. I shall deal with them myself. My goodness, what's going on up there? Are you calling all the lorikeets down? I'm sure you are. That's the baby noises they make. Sort of a squeaky, shrill baby noises. Why are you making baby bird noises when you're not a baby bird? Are you trying to be cute and adorable? Yes, I know. Larry looked so murderous that I decided it would probably be safer if the magpies were removed from danger. So I lured them into my bedroom with the aid of a raw egg and locked them up in their basket while I considered the best thing to do. It was obvious that they would have to go into a cage of sorts, but I wanted a really large one for them, and I did not feel that I could cope with the building of a really big aviary by myself. It was useless asking the family to help me, so I decided that I would inveigle Mr. Kralewski into the constructional work. He could come out and spend the day, and once the cage was finished, he would have the opportunity of teaching me how to wrestle. They actually mean wrestling. It's quite innocent, although I had to ponder about that one for a moment. Dear goddess. I had watched all that groping in the nether regions. I had waited a long time for a favourable opportunity of getting these wrestling lessons, and this seemed to me to be the ideal. Mr. Kralewski's ability to wrestle was only one of his many hidden accomplishments, as I had found out. Apart from his mother, I'm in the bloody sun again. I guess it won't be so bad. Just move myself slightly. If I was really that worried, I could have put on sunscreen, people, really. But it's just mildly irksome, this entrenched fear of the sun. It's not the fear of the sun cancers all the sun. It's the dreadful horror of having to deal with medical staff who gaslight you and validate you and tell you that they don't know how you got the scars over your back and where's the evidence that they were even cancerous, i.e. calling me a liar. It was on from young and old from that point on. It really was. I handled myself remarkably well, but I was severely traumatised by the time I got home. It's just beyond awful. Anyway, I have support, and any future examinations I will have backup. I'm fortunate that I have someone that will back me up, people are all. But it's really quite frightening what's happened to our medical system. Very frightening indeed. Apart from his mother and his birds, I had discovered that Kralewski had one great interest in life, and that was an entirely imaginary world he had evoked in his mind a world in which rich and strange adventures were always happening, adventures in which there were only two major characters, himself as hero, and a member of the opposite sex who was generally known as a lady. Finding that I appeared to believe the anecdotes he related to me, he got bolder and bolder, and day by day allowed me to enter a little farther into his private paradise. It all started one morning when we were having a break for coffee and biscuits. The conversation somehow got onto dogs, and I confessed to an overwhelming desire to possess a bulldog, creatures that I found quite irresistibly ugly. By Jove, yes, bulldogs, said Krafelsky. Wait a minute, I'm sure it was Kralevsky. He'd have spelt it Krafelsky. I think that's a typo. It's meant to be Kralevsky. We'll stick with that because I've been reading it as Kralevsky all this time. Suddenly they switched the consonants over and now I'm having a bloody existential crisis. Kralevsky, Krafelsky. Let's call the whole thing off, people of Earth. No, it's definitely been spelt as Kralevsky all along. So here we go, babies. Fine beasts, trustworthy and brave. One cannot say the same of bull terriers, unfortunately. He sipped his coffee and glanced at me shyly. I sensed that I was expected to draw him out, so I asked why he thought bull terriers particularly untrustworthy. Treacherous, he explained, wiping his mouth. Most treacherous. We're going to move back in the shade, people of Earth. I feel quite dizzy from all this moving back in the shade. Oh, God. Just take my cushion with us. And you, come along. Split spot, don't tarry. Hurry up. We've got work to do, people of Earth. It's not really work, is it? It's a pleasure. So, dissipating of time and effort. I know, Lorikeet. The Mamatu's back. Yes. There's more shade here than there is over there now. It's odd. Still quite speckled though. Not deep shade. He leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes and placed the tips of his fingers together as if praying. I recall that once many years ago when I was in England, I was instrumental in saving a lady's life when she was attacked by one of those brutes. He opened his eyes and peeped at me, seeing that I was all attention. He closed them again and continued. It was a fine morning in spring, and I was taking a constitutional in Hyde Park. Being so early, there was no one else about, and the park was silent except for the bird songs. I had walked quite some distance when I suddenly became aware of a deep, powerful baying. His voice sank to a thrilling whisper, and with his eyes still closed, he cocked his head on one side, as if listening. So realistic was it that I, too, felt I could hear the savage, regular barks echoing among the daffodils. I thought nothing of it at first. I supposed it to be some dog out enjoying itself chasing squirrels. Then suddenly I heard cries for help mingling with the ferocious baying. He stiffened in his chair, frowned, and his nostrils quivered. I'm not very good at quivering my nostrils. I hurried through the trees and suddenly came upon a terrible sight. He paused and passed a hand over his brow, as though, even now, he could hardly bear to recall the scene. There, with her back to a tree, stood a lady. Her skirt was torn and ripped, her legs bitten and bloody, and with a deck chair she was fending off a ravening bull terrier. The brute, froth flecking its yawning mouth, leapt and snarled, waiting for an opening. It was obvious that the lady's strength was ebbing. There was not a moment to be lost. Sorry, I kind of have to chuckle. What you doing, little baby boys? Are you happy birdies? You're very pretty today. Yes. You're very pretty, Charlie's former paramour. Where's your mate? I can't see her. Are you being polyamorous again? Even though there's no Charlie around to be polyamorous with and potentiate, because it never happened. It was a dreamer. There's lorikeet mix over there for you. Yes, that's for you. He's doing a little courtship dance like this. The sweetest little boy. Are you my sugar, sugar, honey, honey? Are you my sweetest little bird? I know I love you too. I love you too. You're a pretty boy. You're the prettiest boys. Don't tell Kermie and Bo, they'll get jealous. Yes, Kermie just went, eh? What am I, Scotch mist? Yes, you're a pretty boy too, Kermie. And Bo's a pretty boy too. But you know how I'm very fond of nature's clowns, the rainbow lorikeets. They're actually very aggressive birds when they get going. No one used to mess with me. No magpies ever attacked me. No kookaburra, no crows. I would walk around the neighbourhood with Charlie on this perch that I made for her. She pooed everywhere. And I never got swooped by magpies in swooping season. They were all very well behaved. They respect her authority, if not mine, by all the gods. Pretty boys, you're being spoken to by the lorikeet, Kermie. Do you understand what he's saying? Do you speak his dialect? He's listening. Eyes still firmly closed, the better to see the vision. Kralewski drew himself up in his chair, straightened his shoulders, and fixed his features into an expression of sneering defiance. How you do? A devil-may-care expression. The expression of a man about to save a lady from a bull terrier. I raised my heavy walking stick. My hair's gone boofy again, hasn't it? Boof, boof, boof. And leapt forward, giving a loud cry to encourage the lady. The hound, attracted by my voice, immediately sprang at me, growling horribly, and I struck it such a blow on the head that my stick broke in half. The animal, though of course dazed, was still full of strength. I stood there defenceless as it gathered itself and launched itself at my throat with gaping jaws. Królewski's forehead had become quite moist during this recital, and he paused to take out his handkerchief and pat his brow with it. Yes, I know, the lorikeets are here, Mr. Crow, Mrs. Crow. The lorikeets are here, and you're going to take their food, just to prove a point that you can. Okay, there's plenty more where that came from, I don't mind. But the lorikeet might mind. See what happens when you don't eat your food? The crow takes it, you stupid bird. I asked eagerly what had happened then. Królewski reunited his fingertips and went on. I did the only thing possible. It was 1,000 to 1 chance, but I had to take it. As the beast leapt at my face, I plunged my hand into his mouth and seized his tongue and twisted it as hard as I could. Ouch! The teeth closed on my wrist, blood spurted out, but I hung on grimly, knowing my life was at stake. Yes, Bo. The dog lashed to and fro for what seemed like an age. I was exhausted. I felt I could not hold on any longer. Then, suddenly, the brute gave a convulsive heave and went limp. I had succeeded. The creature had been suffocated by its own tongue. Is that even possible? Sounds like a bit of a hairy dog story to me. Excuse the pun. By the gods. Oh, Kermie, you've got your claw caught in that toy. That's not good. Oh, he's free now. No, he's not. Might have to do an intervention and see how he goes. I'm sure he'll work it out. He's ripping at the threads. He's taking revenge on the threads. Good boy, Kermie. You tell it. I sighed rapturously. It was a wonderful story and might well be true. Even if it wasn't true, it was the sort of thing that should happen, I felt, and I sympathised with Królewski. If, finding that life had so far denied him a bull terrier to strangle, he had supplied it himself. I said that I thought he had been very brave to tackle the dog in that way. Królewski opened his eyes, flushed with pleasure at my obvious enthusiasm, and smiled deprecatingly. No, not really brave, he corrected. The lady was in distress, you see, and a gentleman could do nothing else. By Jove, no. Having found in me a willing and delighted listener, Kralevsky's confidence grew. He told me more and more of his adventures, and each became more thrilling than the last. I discovered that by skillfully planting an idea in his mind one morning, I could be sure of an adventure dealing with it the following day, when his imagination had had a chance to weave a story. Pardon me. Enthralled, I heard how he and a lady had been the sole survivors of a shipwreck on a voyage to Murmansk. I had some business to attend to there. For 2 weeks, he and the lady drifted on an iceberg, their clothes frozen, feeding on an occasional raw fish or seagull until they were rescued. The ship that spotted them might easily have overlooked them if it had not been for Kralevsky's quick wit. He used the lady's fur coat to light a signal fire. I was enchanted with the story of the time he had been held up by bandits in the Syrian desert while taking a lady to see some tombs. And when the ruffians threatened to carry his fair companion off and hold her to ransom, he offered to go in her place. But the bandits obviously thought the lady would make a more attractive hostage and refused. Kralevsky hated bloodshed, but in the circumstances, what could a gentleman do? He killed all 6 of them with a knife he had concealed in his mosquito boot. Mosquito boot? During the First World War, he had naturally been in the Secret Service, disguised in a beard. We did mention Ronald Biggs disguising himself with a beard too, didn't we? Disguised in a beard, he had been dropped behind the enemy lines to contact another English spy and obtain some plans. And not altogether to my surprise, the other spy turned out to be a lady. Their escape with the plans from the firing squad was a masterpiece of ingenuity. Who but Kralevsky would have thought of breaking into the armoury, loading all the rifles with blanks, and then feigning death as the guns roared out? I became so used to Kralevsky's extraordinary stories that on the rare occasions when he told me one that was faintly possible, I generally believed it. This was his downfall. One day he told me a story of how, when he was a young man in Paris, he was walking along one evening and came across a great brute of a man ill-treating a lady. Kralevsky, his gentlemanly instincts outraged, promptly hit the man on the head with his walking stick. The man turned out to be the champion wrestler of France, and he immediately demanded that his honour be satisfied. Kralevsky agreed. The man suggested that they meet in the ring and wrestle it out. Kralevsky agreed. A date was fixed and Kralevsky started to go into training for the fight. A vegetable diet and many exercises. I nearly read that as excuses. Then I realised I would be making an excuse. He was exercised. And when the great day came, he had never felt fitter. One would think that training for wrestling or boxing or such kind of physical fights that you would need a more of a protein diet to build muscle and aggression, male dominance and all that jazz. But I don't know how these things work. I don't go to gyms. I've been thinking about it vaguely, about joining a gym and getting on one of those rowing machines and perhaps even attempting to lift weights. But then I remembered I had my uterus prolapse once and don't really want to do any internal damage to what's been so carefully hitched and stitched and pulled back into some kind of reasonable existence. Lifting weights would probably be very, very dangerous for me. I'm not supposed to carry more than 5 kilos. Post-surgery I wasn't anyway. But I do. I carry quite heavy groceries and things like that now, but it does kind of leave me a bit weakened afterwards. I have to be a bit careful. Ah, well, it is what it is. I'm joking, but it came to my mind and I thought, oh no, that's so unladylike, but I can't help myself. So I'll say it. I'll say the truth. All that pussy pounding by ignoble idiots that actually weren't even decent men had any honour towards me. And did wreak quite a bit of damage to my body, people of Earth. Not that there were a great deal of lovers, but it's just awful. That and the really bad midwifery practices. That was beyond awful too. It's why after Jasmine I said there'll be no more children. It's too bloody traumatised. Too bloody traumatised and too bloody brutalised. Anyway. I became so used to Krylewski's extraordinary stories that on the rare occasions when he told me one that was faintly possible, I genuinely believed it. This was his downfall. One day he told me a story of how, when he was a young man in Paris, and I read that. Where have I gone? Where have I gone in the space-time continuum, people of Earth? We were down to the diet and the exercises, and I segued saying excuses. Right, here we go. Back in the room, back in the room. It's starting to fade because I'm getting tired, people of Earth. And when the great day came, he had never felt fitter. Krylewski's opponent, who, to judge from his description, bore a close resemblance, both in size and mentality, to a Neanderthal man, was surprised to find Krylewski was a match for him. They struggled round the ring for an hour, neither succeeding in throwing the other. Then suddenly, Krylewski remembered a throw he had been taught by a Japanese friend of his. With a twist and a jerk, he heaved his massive adversary up, twirled him round, and hurled him right out of the ring. The unfortunate man was in hospital for 3 months, so badly was he hurt. As Krylewski rightly pointed out, this was a just and fitting punishment for a cad who was so low is to raise his hand to a lady. I might concur with that. Intrigued by this tale, I asked Kralevsky if he would teach me the rudiments of wrestling, as I felt it would be most useful to me should I ever come across a lady in distress. Kralevsky seemed rather reluctant. Perhaps at some later date, when we had plenty of room, he might show me a few throws, he said. He had forgotten the incident, but I had not. And so the day he came out to help me build, yes, my darling, what news from sacred space? Who are you stirring up, Mr. Crow? Right. So the day came, and so the day he came out to help me build the magpies, their new home, I determined to remind him of his promise. During tea, I waited until there was a suitable pause in the conversation. And then reminded Kralevsky of his famous fight with the French champion wrestler. Kralevsky was not at all pleased to be reminded of this exploit, it appeared. He turned pale and shushed me hurriedly. One does not boast in public about such things, he whispered hoarsely. They really are like the neighbourhood thugs, those crows, taking the lorikeet mix again. Never mind, I have plenty. It's not really a problem. It's just an observation, really. It's because of you, I think, that the lorikeets don't come for their own lorikeet mix anymore. They've given up on any chance of having any. You greedy bird. Oh well. I was quite willing to respect his modesty, providing he gave me a wrestling lesson. I pointed out that all I wanted was to be shown a few of the more simple tricks. Well, said Kralevsky, licking his lips, I suppose I can show you a few of the more elementary holds, but it takes a long time to become a proficient wrestler, you know. Delighted, I asked him if we should wrestle out on the veranda, where the family could watch us, or in the seclusion of the drawing room. Oh my goodness, you're all here now. Happy birdies. Kralevsky decided on the drawing room. It was important not to be distracted, he said. So we went into the house and moved the furniture out of the way, and Kralevsky reluctantly took off his coat. I explained that the basic and most important principle of wrestling, he explained that the basic and most important principle of wrestling was to try to throw your opponent off balance. You could do this by seizing him round the waist and giving a quick sideways twitch. He demonstrated what he meant, catching me and throwing me gently onto the sofa. "Now," he said, holding up a finger, "have you got the idea?" I said yes, I thought I'd got the idea all right. "That's the ticket," said Królewski. "Now you throw me." Determined to be a credit to my instructor, I threw him with great enthusiasm. I hurled myself across the room, seized him round the chest, squeezed as hard as I could to prevent his escape, and then flung him with a dexterous twist of my wrist towards the nearest chair. Unfortunately, I did not throw him hard enough, and he missed the chair altogether and crashed to the floor, uttering a yell that brought the family rushing in from the veranda. We lifted the white-faced, groaning wrestling champion onto the couch, and Margot went to bring some brandy. "What on earth did you do to him?" Mother asked. I said that all I had done was to follow instructions. I'd been invited to throw him, and I had thrown him. It was perfectly simple, and I didn't see that any blame could possibly be attached to me. "You don't know your own strength, dear," said Mother. "You should be more careful." "Damn silly thing to do," said Leslie. "Might have killed him." "I knew a man once who was crippled for life by a wrestling throw," remarked Larry conversationally. Królewski groaned more loudly. "Really, Jerry, you do some very silly things," said Mother, distraught, obviously with visions of Królewski being confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his days. Irritated by what I considered to be quite unfair criticisms, I pointed out again that it was not my fault. I had been shown how to throw a person and then invited to demonstrate, so I had thrown him. "I'm sure he didn't mean you to lay him out like that," said Larry. "You might have damaged his spine, like this fellow I knew. His spine was split like a banana. Very curious. He told me that bits of the bone were sticking out." Królewski opened his eyes and gave Larry an anguished look. "I wonder if I might have some water," he said faintly. At this moment, Margot returned with the brandy. We made Królewski take some. A little colour came into his cheeks again, and he lay back and closed his eyes once more. "Well, you can sit up, and that's one good sign," said Larry cheerfully, "although I believe it's not really a trustworthy indication. I knew an artist who fell off a ladder and broke his back, and he was walking round for a week before they discovered it." "Good God, really?" asked Leslie, deeply interested. "What happened to him?" "He died," said Larry. So it just it reminds me of my own family of origin. Very dark gravels, humour like that too. Gallows, gravel rash gallows humour. Oh, it was a delightful upbringing. It really was. It's partly why I am the way I am today, people of Earth. Królewski raised himself into a sitting position and gave a wan smile. I think perhaps if you would be kind enough to let Spiro drive me, it would be wiser if I went into town and consulted a doctor. Yes, of course Spiro will take you, said Mother. I should go along to Theodore's laboratory and get him to take an X-ray, just to put your mind at rest. So we wrapped Kralewski, pale but composed, in quantities of rugs and placed him tenderly in the back of the car. Tell Theodore to send us a note with Spiro to let us know how you are, said Mother. I do hope you'll soon be better. I'm really so sorry this had to happen. It was so very careless of Jerry. It was Kralewski's big moment. He smiled a smile of pain-racked nonchalance and waved a hand feebly. Please don't distress yourself. Think nothing more about it, he said. Don't blame the boy. It was not his fault. You see, I'm a little out of practice. Much later that evening, Spiro returned from his errand of mercy bearing a note from Theodore. Dear Mrs. Durham, it appears from the X-ray photographs I have taken of Mr. Kralewski's chest that he has cracked 2 ribs, one of which, I'm sorry to say, quite severely. He was reticent as to the cause of the damage, but quite considerable force must have been employed. However, if he keeps them bound up for a week or so, he should suffer no permanent injury. With kindest regards to you all, yours, Theodore. A P.S. I didn't by any chance leave a small black box at your house when I came out last Thursday, did I? It contains some very interesting Anopheles mosquitoes I had obtained, and it seems I must have mislaid it. Perhaps you would let me know? And on that note, we have come to the completion, rather laboriously, lots of segues, and the Tanya drifting as she does, of chapter 15. And tomorrow, all being well, drifting in my psychedelic dream in my beautiful sacred space garden, I may come back and read chapter 16, The Lake of Lilies. I thought this was 3 separate books, but it seems to just continue. Aha. There's a part 2, so there must be a part 1. Just trying to work out where this actual book ends and the next one begins. People of Earth. Right. All right. Quite a few more chapters to go before we begin the next book, which is Birds, Beasts and Relatives. He really likes writing about his relatives. I have quite a shit ton of material if I wrote about mine, but I actually can't bear thinking about them. It was just beyond awful. But I must say there were some funny events that used to happen. They could be funny at times. Credit where it's due. Right. So I'll be back tomorrow with chapter 16. And there it goes up to chapter 18 and then another bit of whimsy at the end called The Return. So yeah, not far from completing the first book. But anyway, it's quite delightful. Quite delightful. That was quite an extensive part of the book, people of Earth. And the next one is quite extensive too. But look, it's enjoyable and pleasurable reading, the funny anecdotes and the funny English ways and that little Greek island. It's sweet and pleasant and, you know, apart from cracking 2 ribs and damaging yourself by the gods, that wasn't pleasant. But you know what I mean, it's easy reading and nothing too absolutely harrowing like some of the other books I've been presenting to you. So there is that. Right, anyway, I've completed this task for the day and I can go and have a bit of a rest now and relax. What do they call it in the military? Rest and relaxation. R&R. Not that I've ever been in the military, nor would I want to. So there is that, people of Earth. But what's going on up there, boys? I can hear you twittering. Can't see them, but I can hear them. They must be high up in the tree, probably eating the umbrella tree berries. So anyway, I bid you good afternoon. Have a beautiful day wherever you are on planet Earth. And be good to yourselves and each other. Live your best life with harm to none, competition with none. So it is done. And you know how it always ends, my little stories. Remember, as always, to never ever let the bastards grind us down. Bye for now.